Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox and I'd like to welcome you to the Daily Compliance News. The Daily Compliance News is an offering of the Compliance Podcast Network. June 24, 2019, the Who Are Your Friends edition. First up, Who Are Your Friends Part 1 and Are You Known by the Company You Keep? The frontrunner for the British Prime Minister position in the Conservative Party, Boris Johnson, has run into some questions about not only his character but his judgment that risk undermining his push to succeed Theresa May. It turns out that he has engaged Steve Bannon. Yes, the former U.S. presidential advisor has been advising Mr. Johnson for some time, since at least his keynote speech after he quit as Foreign Secretary in protest for Mrs. May's Brexit policy. So this is threatened to play in the hands of his main rival, Jeremy Hunt, who has claimed that character is central to this election, and that certainly I don't think the United Kingdom would really want to have a Steve Bannon acolyte in his prime minister position. How about Who Are Your Friends Part 2? The U.S., and this comes from the New York Times, the first article is from the Financial Times. U.S. blacklists more Chinese tech companies over national security concerns. The Trump administration has added 5 Chinese entities to a U.S. blacklist, further restricting China's access to U.S. technology and stoking already high tensions before a planned meeting between President Trump and President Xi at the Japan at the G20 next week. So more sanctions, more turmoil, and more questions about who are you doing business with. Next up, for the newbie, how to make the best impression and in networking, from Carla Miller over in the Washington Post on her weekly column of Business Perspective. And she gives some great points that everyone should use in networking, but particularly newbies. Be prepared, be specific, make it easy to say yes. Don't give up, follow up, be gracious. And this will be a good start for your networking career going forward. But as I said, really, those are great points for anyone involved in networking. And finally, from the BBC, a story that came out last week, the ex-chief of Interpol has pled guilty to corruption in China. China says the former Interpol chief, Meng Hongwei, has admitted his guilt after going on trial for taking over $2 million in bribes. He was the first Chinese head of Interpol, and he vanished on a trip back to China from France last summer. The Chinese Communist Party said that he'd been detained as part of President Xi's corruption campaign. He'd been living in France and resigned from his position at Interpol after he was arrested. So pretty fair amount of bribery and corruption and compliance news over the weekend. I hope you will continue to listen and enjoy the Daily Compliance News. I hope you are listening to Trekking Through Compliance, my 79-episode exploration of the intersection of Star Trek, the original series, and compliance. It's on the Compliance Podcast Network, so you can check it out. On Monday, This Side of Paradise. On Tuesday, we'll have Devil in the Dark. Synopsis of each episode. I hope you'll join me daily for Trekking Through Compliance. It will be available on standard channels, Megaphone, JD Supra, FCPA Compliance Report, the Compliance Podcast Network, Spotify, and a host of others. Finally, I'm pleased to note that I am now part of the C-Suite Radio Network, so check out one of the podcasts on C-Suite Radio.